So the title of my talk is UX Revolution, essentially, hopefully giving you tools for creating excellent websites. So this is my team. This is the team that I work with every day. They are a bunch of great guys and girls. We work on all the websites that Liferay puts out. So, for example, some of our campaign sites that we run, we have dev cons, all sorts of microsites, other sites that people want, the main site, that's the homepage, and then even the symposium site for this event. So we create those, we work with marketing, we work with events, whatever anybody wants on the website, we get to develop the code to put that up. So we work with design, what it looks like. It's a very exciting job. I love it because it's a unique place because I get to both use Liferay as a product, but then also contribute to it as it is the product we're promoting as well. So I love my job. I do more front-end things, so HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then touching the back end for building portlets every once in a while. But yes, so today I want to talk about what is UX. UX stands for user experience, and the definition that I found on Wikipedia is user experience involves a person's behaviors, attitudes, and emotions about using a particular product, system, or service. So, first thing I thought of, I'm here in Rome for the first time. I've only been here for a day and a half, and most of it's been working on this presentation. And so, I go outside and I see amazing buildings, amazing Colosseum, and the experience that you have when you interact with something that is beautiful and something that it's hard to describe. There's an aspect of user experience that we cannot control because you can't control how a person feels that day when they interact with your site. Or all these people in front here, we don't know what they've been going through that day. Their experience of this Colosseum is going to be very different from person to person. But there are ways that you can help improve that, and there's something inherently beautiful and elegant about this Colosseum. So think of that example as we go through. I think it helps, at least me, to have tangible examples of something that you enjoy or something that is a good experience for you in life, and then transfer that onto your website, which a lot of times we don't do very well or we don't think about because your website is just something that you need to do or you need to make. So we can't design the user experience. We design the product that creates the experience. So this is a small nuance. But essentially, yeah, we can't control how that person feels when they go to your site, but you can do things to avoid negative feelings. There's things that you can do that will definitely make them not happy. Like if you have bad Wi-Fi, usually it makes your day pretty bad. Because, yeah, you want to experience things well, and we can't control all of that, but we can control the website that they're interacting with. So, the goal is also not user experience. Oftentimes we think, oh, I want to build a website that is beautiful and has a great user experience. But the goal isn't that. The goal is to attain business value. So we have requirements, we need our users to get information, we want people to interact with our websites. So the goal isn't to make a beautiful website. The goal is the function of the website itself, to create business value. So keep that in mind as we go forward. So, a small graph to help understand different parts of user experience. First, you want it to be usable. So something that you can use, you want it to be reliable, and then you want it to be enjoyable. So these are all aspects of user experience that are very important because without them, it's hard to enjoy or hard to interact with your site. So something that's usable, that means if it's findable, learnable, readable, searchable. Basically, if you can get what you want when you go to your site. If it's, yeah, you're able to use it. Reliable is very important as well. If you, yeah, the information that you get is credible. If it's functional, when you click this button, does it go where I want it to go? Or do I get an error? Or do things work? We all have experienced websites that are not functional and they're not reliable, and immediately you disregard that website as being anything good. And then enjoyable. That's the less tangible, harder thing, and especially for me, as a developer. Like, you need to make sure that the site is enjoyable. You need to be able to feel. There's a certain aspects that you can't 100% control, But this is where more design comes in, the surprise of the site, integrating new things like HTML5 and different technologies that wow the user. Those are things that make your site enjoyable. So all these things go into user experience. UX is about the big picture and the flow. So looking at your entire site, knowing who your users are, and saying, we want these people to get this out of our site. The whole flow of it. But it's also about the micro-interactions and the details. So it's also about how, when I fill out this form, how does it respond? Are there way too many fields? When I click on this button, does it work? So user experience isn't just one or the other, it's all inclusive in those things, which makes it difficult to create a good website, but important to think through those things. So another way to look at it, this being a pyramid of user experience, functional is the baseline. So obviously if your site doesn't function, it's not going to be a good experience for the user when they hit your site. So it needs to be functional first. Then it should be reliable. They need to know when they hit your site that they'll be able to, it'll work. That when they click submit and want to give contact information, that, it'll actually send the email and I'll actually get contacted. So it needs to be reliable in order for them to trust your site. Then it needs to be usable. So if people are getting lost, if they can't find what they're wanting to find, they're not going to be able to get what they want and they're not going to have a good experience with your site. And then it needs to be enjoyable after that. So that these are things that kind of build on top of each other. This is where the design will come in. This is where you'll be able to, see, the color scheme, those kind of things that play into more of the feel of the site, or the exciting new technologies that you put into the site. Those things make your site even better and have a great user experience. So at the top of this is an excellent site. There's no way to say, this is an excellent site every time. It depends on lots of different factors, obviously. But there's this gap in between here. This comfort zone right there is usually a good site, like a site that you maybe even don't notice. You can notice when a site is bad. A lot of times sites just work, and that's good. A lot of times you need to do something, so you go to a site, and if it works, that's a good user experience. And so there's this comfort zone somewhere between usable and enjoyable that is a good target place. It's a good place to be. Maybe some of your sites are there. But this space right here is very hard to fill. And the reason why is this is when you get personal. So with your personal, you can personalize your site. So what I mean by that is when you give content, just like Ricardo's last talk, when you give content that is relevant to a specific person, that site becomes much more useful to them. They see that you're giving them content that is relevant. They see that you're guiding them through the site the way that they want to go, and they're able to connect with that site even more, and that takes the UX to the next level. So UX is about relationship with your user. So communication and relevance are important. So if you think about it as a conversation, whether it's like the first picture with a stranger on the side of the road, when you have a conversation with somebody, the reason you're talking is because you have something in common, and you're able to make connections. And that's true even if you're talking with an old friend at a restaurant. The reason that relationships last is because you're able to connect and that you're talking about relevant things. So that's why if your site has a bunch of information that the user doesn't apply to them, they're not going to connect with your site, and you're not communicating what you need to communicate. And that's going to result in, maybe it's a good site, maybe it works, but it's not going to be that excellent site until it becomes like a personal site and they're able to connect and you're able to communicate through it. So, research and strategy are key. So the way to do this is you just have to plan both the big picture and the small picture like we were talking. So the reliable category that we talked about, that's going to be mostly about code. So for all developers, like making sure the code is clean and that it works well and it works consistently. The only way to have a reliable site is to make sure that it's structured well, code-wise. It's also well thought out. So this is like the whole site, like your sitemap, all of your plans, making sure that those make sense and that you know who your users are, and you say, I want Okay, say I know that CEOs are coming to see Liferay.com. I want to make sure that when they hit the homepage, they see something relevant for CEOs, and they click on that, and it takes them to a page that they want to see, maybe a white paper or a case study for something, maybe even relevant to their industry. So thinking through where you want your users to go is what's going to make a usable site. And then also having intentional design will make it enjoyable. So having, whether you're designing it or you have a design team, making sure that they know some of the keys of making user experience and interaction easy. It's not just making a pretty site like a brochure, it's about the interaction, like when I click here, what does it do, what is easiest. So thinking through that and not just making what looks good. And then the relevant content is what puts it over the top and that's what makes it personal. So your users are unique. You need real people in mind when you design the site, not just generic ideas. So you might think, oh, okay, I have business people that I want to hit my site, and then I want to guide them this way, but that's not specific enough. There's a concept called personas, which maybe you've heard of, where you create basically characters of certain people that you know are going to be coming to your site, and you have details, even like they have 3 kids, and they live in Venice, and you're able to have an idea of the person that's in your head as you create your site, and then that will shape the way that you design things, because you can design a site that works for a specific person that you're trying to target, which is much better than just trying to create a good site for anybody who visits it. And then also, you can't manage what you don't measure. So that means metrics. You need to be recording what you're doing. So you can use Google Analytics, you can use other metric things, but it's essential for knowing, what your users are doing. You can hypothesize, oh, I think that this user is going to go here, I think that they're going to do that, but once you make it, you need to test to see if it's correct, and you need to continue to test. You can use A/B testing, you can see if what you're doing is effective, and then continually changing it so that it's getting better. For example, our symposiums this year, we had a dramatic increase in the people that are using the mobile app, and they're rated sessions, both up and down, just in all symposiums. And so we're able to see, what we've been doing to push for the mobile app is actually working, and we're getting more feedback on our sessions, and we're able to see, people are interested in this, they're not interested in that. It makes it more specific. So, what are some ways you can make your site reliable? First off, no broken links or images. That's easy. No one wants to see that, or the error message. Make sure that your site is working. When you're upkeeping your site, don't let links get out of date. Make sure that you're checking, even maybe doing automated tests to check things, to make sure that things are working. Performance matters. So one of the easiest ways to ruin the user experience of your site is to give you a slow load time, as all of you, I'm sure, have experienced. So this graph is helpful for me. So 0 to 100 milliseconds feels instant to the user. So if it loads that fast, it's instant, it's great. 100 to 300 milliseconds is a little bit of a delay, but it's not too bad. It's still okay. 300 to 1,000 milliseconds, that's starting to, your focus on your task feels a little bit delayed, and you're kind of starting to register it. And then 1 second, you're switching gears, like you're thinking about something else while the page is loading, you're losing your user. And then if it's 10 plus seconds, nobody waits 10 seconds for a page to load anymore. So you will completely ruin the experience of your site. So that's key, making sure that, once again, your code is clean enough that it can handle fast page load times, figuring out how to do that. So, also, for being reliable, cross-device consistency is key. You want, obviously, to have a mobile site, something that is responsive across all devices. It's not ideal for when you hit it on your phone, it should look similar to when you hit it on your desktop, because you want to be able to have the same experience. If I go on an airline's website and want to check my flight on my desktop, and then I go to my phone, I want the navigation to be similar, things to look similar, so that I know and I'm familiar, and like, this makes sense. So being consistent across all your devices is key. So the next section was usable. So you want your site to be very usable for your users. They want to be able to know how to use it, and it should be easy and intuitive. So some design concepts that will help in this. There are many of them, but I just wanted to highlight a few that I thought were helpful. One is, it's called fit flow. So there's a long description saying, essentially, the more space you need to move, the more distance you need to move, and the smaller the target, the harder it is to interact. So this form, for example, you have to hit name, and then last name, and then that little checkbox, and then the submit is all the way over there. So you're moving your mouse around a lot. It's not terribly hard. It wouldn't be that hard. But all you have to do is move the buttons over and then make the clickable area for the checkbox a little bit bigger, and the experience is much easier. So little things like that, those details will make your site even better. There's a concept called chunking. So putting things in groups of maybe 3 or 4, maybe even 5, will help you to read more. So if you have a list of things, if you have 12 items in the list, you're not going to be able to register or read all of those very quickly. But if you put things in groups of 4, it's much easier to interact with, to read, and to remember those things. So it's just a good rule. This is actually our anniversary site for Liferay.com, and so we're trying to make things simpler. Just the navigation is very simple. 4 chunks. You click on it, those will expand. But yes. All right. So, and then also, as I was saying before, in order to be usable, you need to really think through your site map. How it's working. So they hit the home page, then where do you want your users to go, and how are you going to guide them through that? That's key for the overall user experience. And then enjoyable. A few things that might help make your site enjoyable. You saw this picture in Ricardo's presentation. This is not enjoyable. This is overwhelming. How much information is on that page? The more things that you put on a page, the harder it is to respond, to interact, and to decide. And you get overwhelmed and you don't know what to do. It's much better to keep things simple, to have things clean. Less is definitely more, as best you can. And it's hard, especially with Liferay and portals, because you can drag and drop so many portlets, and so it's tempting to put everything you want all on one page, do all that stuff, but it's key to make sure that you spread things out and that you have only what you need on that page. Similar to this is horror vacui, which is fear of empty space. So you might see this is a tattoo, and someone might say, oh, I have so much room. So they go to the other extreme, and they just cover their face in tattoos. And that's overwhelming as well. This might not be enough, but that's too far. So really thinking through, making sure that you don't overcrowd your pages is very important for the user experience. And for any designer, yeah, that space is important in order to interact. And then lastly, also just making sure you're intentional about the colors and the shapes and the design. The whole aesthetic feel of your site is very important. Picking color palettes that, this is an example of a color palette that I like, just it relates to whatever maybe your site is about a city. And then so having an image of that city and then a color palette that ties with it, it helps the whole experience of your site. It takes it to a more enjoyable place. All right, so the goal is simple and intuitive. You do not you don't want the user to think, just react. Essentially, yes, you want things to be completely natural. They should never question or have to even think. It's just, oh, there's a button, I'll click on this. This makes sense, it should flow. A good example of this is an iPad. Kids can use iPads very easily. It's a simple UX, and it's very easy to use. It's important to keep your site simple, thinking of it as, how could a child use this? That doesn't work for all things, but keeping things as simple as possible is always going to help. And then also keeping things intuitive, or reinventing how you can do things, like this dashboard for BMW that I don't think it's out yet, but it's supposed to be coming out. They put the navigation on the left, right in the dashboard, and then you have your music right on the right. It's something that's just so easy. You're already naturally looking at your speed. It's right there. It looks nice. It's integrated well. It's a great example of something that you can do that is very that helps the design and makes things easy and simple. So, how is Liferay improving its UX for you and your users? I want to give a few examples. One thing that we're working on now, we're redesigning the feel of blogs. So we want you to be able to edit your blogs on your iPhone. We want to make things simpler, make things easier, trying to make things, clean and intuitive so that it's easy. You just, maybe you're checking the status of a blog and you can just swipe on your phone. You can add new entries, you can write your blog on your phone. This makes it easier for you as you're upkeeping your website, and then also your users. If you allow your users to write blogs on your site, something like that makes things much easier and cleaner, and it looks very nice. Also, something like themes for blogs. So like in Blogger, or when you're writing blogs, you can usually have a custom page. So if you let your customers blog, we're working on letting Liferay have themes for your blogs, things like that. Widgets, things that make it easy for them to connect, easy for them to comment, and that work well and look nice. We're working on putting that out of the box into Liferay. Also, having just themes. So a lot of times, like I'm a developer, I didn't have any training in design. I'm sure a lot of you are as well. So it's nice to have, like in WordPress, when you have themes that you can just download and use. Those are very nice to have. So we're trying to create more themes and put them on the marketplace so that you can use them, you can download them, you can modify them. But it gives you a place to start and kind of give you a feel for what your site will look like. Also, another cool thing that is coming out is the old content editor looked like this. So this is a WYSIWYG. You probably, depending on how much you work with it, you might know it well. It's pretty ugly, I think. There's a big gray box, there's lots of toolbars, lots of buttons. You want to create your content, I just wanted to create a table. There it is. It works and it functions well, but we're wanting to make that a better experience for the user. And so the goal is something more like this. So this is your content, and then you can just highlight, and then it gives you your options right there in the toolbar. It's simple, it's easy, it's intuitive. You don't even have to think. You're just like, oh, I want to highlight this word and I want to make it bold. It naturally happens. So we're trying to make the editing of content in Liferay easier. So you don't have to edit the article and then open the new page and then figure out all that stuff. It can just be easy. You just drag it on the page, write your content, do that. We're working towards doing that, and some of that is even already available. Another thing that we're doing to help increase the UX for Liferay and for you is a single page application. So I don't know if you know what this is or not, but it's something new coming to Liferay 7. It's very exciting. Essentially, it's using JavaScript to make your site faster. Instead of having to refresh the whole page every time you click on a link, it will refresh only one section of the page, which is very helpful. The load times are dramatically better, especially when you're in slow internet. Sometimes we don't notice, like when I'm in the office and we're creating a website, I don't notice that I'm refreshing the page a lot of times, I'm doing all these things, and then when I get into my hotel and I have really slow internet and I try to do anything, it's really, really slow. So single page application will make it so you can make long scrolling pages and the individual portlets will refresh themselves. It's a very cool project. A number of guys from Liferay, they actually built it as a framework outside of Liferay so that other people can contribute to it, but then they're integrating that in, and that's Senna.js, which is a really cool thing. You can check out senna.js.com for more information for it later. But that's going to create faster load times, a much better experience for you and for your users when they're hitting your site. Also, just like Ricardo talked about, content targeting is key. From taking your user experience from one level up to the next one needs to be personal. So that app is a great app. You can identify your users, you can set rules, you can do what you want to do with your content, and then you can engage users much, much better. That'll I think this is huge. We're currently doing some content targeting on liferay.com, and it's cool to see. Yeah, maybe if you went to the homepage right now, you would probably see an Italian banner, but other people around the world, depending on the location, depending on the information we know, we're able to target the content, and it just makes things easier. You might not even think about it, but it makes things easier, and that's what good UX is about. So, Liferay is becoming more reliable, usable, and enjoyable for you, so you can build personal and excellent websites for your users. That's our goal, and that's what we're excited to do, and I'm excited to see it moving forward. So, thank you.